Thank you for coming early, mashallah. All right. Oh, let me admit everybody. We're just gonna wait just till 3 o'clock. I'm gonna mute. Oh, welcome everyone. I am gonna mute myself for a second. Hold on. Sorry, check this. How's everybody doing today? Assalamu alaikum. Good? Okay, did I mute everybody? Hold on. Okay, as we wait for the last two people to join on. It's 3 o'clock. Let's get started because today we have 4 surahs to go through. Okay, there's another one. Yesterday we got up to Surah Al-Kahf. Today, inshallah, we're going to go over Surah Maryam, Surah Taha, Al-Anbiya, and Al-Hajj. So we're going to get through 22 surahs. I'm so excited. Can you believe that the last 10 days of Ramadan are coming up so soon? It's like good and bad at the same time because it's really exciting. We've been waiting for this, but then it's kind of sad too because Ramadan is running away. Okay, let's get started. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Surah Maryam, and how beautiful is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually used a woman's name as the title of a surah. Like, how beautiful is that? And we should know that it's actually Islam that brought dignity to humanity and to women. It's Allah. The real Islam is the one in which Allah has graced women with so many honors, right? And if it doesn't feel like it, then there's a problem in either how we're understanding it or how someone's practicing Islam. But in the real Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given women so much like dignity and honor. And I think that's just a beautiful name anyway, Maryam, and it's nice to have a surah named Maryam. So at the beginning, as you know, there's certain like letters which are huruf al-mukhatta'at, right? And so those are letters such as kaf, ha, ya, ayn, sad. So there's some letters in the Quran which we don't get to know the meaning of those letters because only Allah knows the meaning of those letters. And that's okay, because it's kind of a reminder to us, really, that we don't know everything. And even if we were to read the whole Quran, there's still some letters that only Allah knows the meaning of. At the beginning, Allah says in verse 2, this is a reminder of the mercy of your Lord to his servant Zakaria. And, Zakaria, alayhi salam, he made dua to Allah. And in this surah, and in the next few surahs, we're going to see that the righteous prophets would make du'as to Allah, especially for their children. They wanted children. They would make du'as to Allah. And so he said, my Lord, my bones are weak. My hair is filled with gray. However, I've never been left without blessings when I called upon you, my Lord. So notice that there's so many times when prophets get really old and they still haven't had children. They don't feel despairing. They still ask Allah for children. It says, now I'm worried about what my relatives will do after me, and my wife is barren, so grant me an heir from yourself, one who will inherit the mantle of righteousness from me and from my family of Jacob. Make him, my Lord, someone with whom you'll be pleased. So he wanted not just a child, but a righteous child, and we should all remember to pray for righteous children and that Allah makes us righteous. So then he got a son, named Job, and here, after that, there's the story of Mary. And so one thing we know about the story of Maryam alayhi salam is that she had this miracle in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed us that he was able to make her have a baby just by a miracle, not by being married. And so what happened with Maryam alayhi salam is whenever she was about to have Isa, she withdrew. In verse 16, it starts with her story. It says, she withdrew from her family to a place in the east. She set up a curtain to screen herself from her family. And then we sent an angel to her who appeared like a mortal man in all respects. And she asked Allah, because she was a very faithful believer, she said, I seek the protection and compassion from you. She cried out when she saw the stranger approach, if you're mindful of Allah, then you'll leave me alone. And then the angel said, truly I'm a messenger from your Lord sent to you to tell you about a gift of a pure boy. And she said, how can I have a son? I'm not married. There's no, man who has been near me. And so he said, so it will be, for your Lord says, that's easy for me, and your son will be appointed a sign for the people as well as a source of mercy from us. And then she was still a human being. She had labor pain. So you know how whenever your mom had you, it was very painful this way or that way. So she had such bad labor pain, she was shaking the tree. And it says, oh, if only I had died before this and become something forgotten or lost to sight. So here, she had to go through these struggles, and there was a voice so she was like alone, having Isa alayhi salam. And then a voice came to her and said, don't be distressed. Your Lord has provided a spring for you. Now shake the palm tree towards you, and it will shower ripe dates upon you. And so then she had Isa alayhi salam, and he spoke as a baby. In time, she went back to her people. Which one do you want? A highlighter? 1 second. Excuse me, I'm on a call, so please don't talk across the house. My kids, what? Okay. So Isa alayhi salam, one of his miracles is that he spoke when he was a baby. Okay, he spoke when he was a baby. He said that, let's see, how can we talk to a baby in a cradle? So basically, she was told not to talk for 3 days, but what happened is Isa alayhi salam was able to talk to the people, okay? And so Isa alayhi salam spoke and said, I'm a servant of Allah. He has given me knowledge of the scripture and made me a prophet. So imagine, just imagine her, situation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given her this, situation that she's in. She has to obey, and she's very faithful, but she has to be very patient. And she has to be, she has to feel so different from everyone else, because she was afraid that people were going to say all kinds of bad things about her. And she was afraid that people were not going to believe in her. So then, she had to really go through this very difficult situation, because, in that time, that was not normal. I mean, it's not normal for this to happen to anybody. Nowadays, people are not going to make a big deal of it. But back then, it's like, how did you have this child, and all these questions, right? And so it says, this was Jesus, the son of Mary, and that's an exposition of the truth about what they're arguing. It's not right to say that Allah has taken a son. Allah, glory be to him, whenever he decides something, all he has to say is be. Isa said, Allah is my Lord and your Lord, so serve him, for that's the straight path. However, the various factions among the Christians differed among themselves about the true nature of Jesus. So this is our messenger. This is our messenger from Allah. However, we know that there's entire, religions who are really misunderstanding and really believing in him in the wrong way. They have the wrong idea of who he was. And it says they cover up the truth. Those who cover up the truth will be doomed at the sight of the momentous day. Okay? And then it goes on to the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam and his father. So imagine this situation. Every single one of these situations is so difficult for each prophet, because they're dealing with sometimes these family situations. And so here Ibrahim alayhi salam had a father who did not believe either. In fact, he worshipped idols. It says, mention in the book something about Ibrahim, for he was an honest man and a prophet. He said to his father, my father, why are you worshiping things that you can neither hear nor see, nor bring you any benefit at all? It says, my father, some teachings have come to me that haven't reached you, so follow me and I'll guide you to an even path. My father, don't be in the service of shaitan. It says, don't be in the service of shaitan, for shaitan is a rebel against the compassionate. My father, I'm afraid that a punishment might befall you from the compassionate that might cause you to be included among shaitan's allies. So imagine that Ibrahim alayhi salam, he loves his father, okay? He loves his father. Who doesn't, you know? He looked up to his father. He wanted the best for his father. And here, you know, here he is also informed of this religion, and he's a messenger of Allah. And yet he is having to deal with this sadness that he has, that his father is not believing. He's a disbeliever. He's on the wrong path. He's a polytheist. And it's, imagine his position. Imagine how he feels and the struggle that's inside of his heart. And then Ibrahim's father said, "Are you talking against my gods? Ibrahim, if you don't back off, then I'll stone you. Now get yourself away from me. So peace and goodbye to you, Ibrahim. So peace and goodbye to you." Ibrahim answered, "However, I'm still going to pray to my Lord for your forgiveness because he's always been kind to me." So imagine like such a big part of your life as your own father that you're having to struggle with, right? About this big issue, right? And you know that if he does not come to Islam, that he's going to end up in the hellfire. Okay, yes, you can. Is it here? Okay, okay. So next, you know, Ibrahim alayhi salam also prays for children. There's this in verse 54, says, also mentioned in the book something about Ismail, for he was true to his word and he was a messenger and a prophet. Also in verse 56, it says, mention further about Idris. He was an honest man and a prophet, whom we exalted to a high place. Okay, so there are many prophets and messengers that are mentioned by name in the Quran, and there's also many, 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 more so than not, that are not mentioned in the Quran, okay? And then we have, in verse 76, Allah increases the guidance of those who seek to be guided. Moral deeds that endure are best in the sight of your Lord for repayment of the most profitable returns. And by the way, let's see, okay, this is an important verse back in 71. It says, there's not one among you except you're going to have to pass over the bridge over the hellfire, okay? So in this section, 66 until 72, Allah talks about when we're raised back up, and there's people who say, oh, am I really going to be raised back up? But, you know, not only are we going to be raised back up, we have to cross over hellfire. And I hope everybody knows that in the day of judgment, it's not that you just kind of snap and get to heaven. What happens is every single one of us is going to be asked about our deeds. And there's something, we know a few clues. We don't know everything, but one of the clues that we know is that, here, let me mute.
Actually, it's dumb game. I've only beat
daughter's in another room listening. Okay. No. All right. So what we know is that we're going to almost review our whole life somehow. And then you have to, in order to get to Jannah, you would have to cross over hell. So there's going to be a path, and that path is going to be made up of your deeds. So if you had really good deeds, it's going to be like this very strong highway. If you've ever gone on like a bridge or a highway before, have you ever kind of been a little bit spooked out by it? Like, oh, I'm on this really high bridge and there's all this water and what if we fall and that sort of thing? Well, imagine to get to Jannah at the end, you have to pass over the hellfire. So if you have really measly deeds, then imagine that you're going to be like on a little string, and there's going to be times when you're going to fall and have to hold on and all this stuff. I'm going to switch rooms because this room is too loud. Okay, so basically what's going to happen is you have to actually cross over the hellfire. So if you had really good deeds, that path is going to be very strong, inshallah, even though it is with the mercy of Allah. But that path is going to be like, you're not going to be afraid. You're going to run across. And some people will have like an entire like light around them. It's going to be so easy. And then for other people, it's going to be really scary because their deeds were so meager that they might even fall. And then people who have really bad deeds, they're just going to fall into hellfire. So this is our evidence in verse number 70 that there's not a single person among you except you're going to have to pass over the bridge that spans over the hellfire. I'm going to close it. So if we just visualize that, that is something that should really motivate us to do the right thing. And in verse 85 of that surah, it says, one day we're going to gather the righteous before the compassionate, meaning before Allah, like an honored delegation, even as we're going to drive the bad people into hellfire like a thirsty herd of cattle. So on that day, we're going to be treated according to the worth of our deeds. So those who struggle to do good deeds every day of their life, they're going to be honored. And those who enjoyed their life and just, followed their own satisfactions that day, they're going to be driven to hellfire like a thirsty herd of cattle. Okay? Next surah, surah 20, surah Taha, it says in verse 7, it doesn't matter if you talk out loud or keep your thoughts to yourself. He knows every secret, even that which you can conceal in your heart. Then it goes into it goes into the story of Musa alayhi salam. Okay, so it talks a little bit about Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam. And one thing about Fir'aun that it mentions, it goes through the story of the Fir'aun. In verses 76, after all this confrontation with the Fir'aun, Allah says, and so it was that we sent a revelation to Musa that said, travel by night with my servants and strike a dry path for them through the sea. Musa alayhi salam had this stick. He was asked by Allah to strike a path when he got to the sea. It says, have no fear of being overtaken by Fir'aun's army, because behind him, chasing Musa alayhi salam and his servants and his people was the Fir'aun. It says, then Fir'aun pursued them by his forces, but they were completely overwhelmed and smothered under the sea. So after all of this, all of these experiences with the Fir'aun, what happened to the Fir'aun? Whenever Musa struck, he struck with his stick and he went through the sea, because the sea parted, right? The sea parted for Musa alayhi salam. The believers traveled through that part. And then the Fir'aun, because of his arrogance, he just thought he could keep going. He went and followed him. But Musa alayhi salam got over safely, and the Fir'aun was drowned. And that's a Kahoot question. He was drowned, and that is how he was destroyed. Okay? And then in another section, talks in verse 109, on that day, no one's intercession will do any good, save for those who are given permission to intercede by the compassionate, by Allah, whose speech is acceptable. So once again, the day of judgment, nobody can help each other. Then it goes to the story of Adam alayhi salam. Okay, so one thing, and we've reviewed this story before in other surahs, where Adam and Hawa were placed into Jannah first. But notice this point in verse 120. It says, then both Adam and his wife ate from it together, meaning the forbidden tree, and the awareness of their nakedness came to their senses. Okay, so when they committed that sin, okay, the first thing that happened is they realized the private parts, and they became shameful, and then they tried to cover the private parts. Now notice that when they lost this modesty, that was like the first thing that went. When they were on their downward path, the first thing that left was this point, the modesty. And I want to bring that up as a point, because we're asked to cover and have a sense of haya, right? So as Muslims, as believers, we need to have a sense of haya, which means it's a modesty. We shouldn't be okay with just looking at anything and anyone is dressed, the wrong way. We're just okay with it. No, we have a sense of haya. So anything you look at, it should be appropriate. So we shouldn't be looking at people that are not dressed appropriately, even if they're stars, even if they're billionaires, even if they're famous. You don't look at that. If somebody, even if you're out in the driveway playing basketball and your neighbors come out with like their shorts and bikinis, don't look at that. If you're in the grocery store, if you're in the mall, wherever you are, if you're at school and people are not dressed right, don't get used to looking at the wrong stuff. We're supposed to lower our gaze. And not just that, there's a relationship between that and your downfall. And as we can see that when Adam and his wife ate from the tree, the first thing that happened is shamefulness, okay? It says they began to sew leaves together from the garden to wear clothes. Adam had disobeyed his Lord and let himself be deceived, okay? So having haya and modesty is a central part of our religion. And as long as they had that, they were honored, they were honored in the garden. It says later on his Lord chose him and turned to him and later on his Lord chose him, turned to him in forgiveness and guided him. So Allah forgave him, but then he guided them and he said, both of you go down away from here, and you know, it says go down away from here, meaning go to the dunya. Though your descendants will be enemies of one another, however, if there ever comes any guidance from me, it will surely come. Whoever follows my guidance will never lose his way or fall into misery, and whoever turns away from my message will have constricted life. We'll raise him up again, blind on the day of assembly. Okay, next, in verse 130, we're reminded that one way to gain faith and one way to get stronger is through prayer. It says, be patient with what they're saying. Glorify the praises of your Lord before the rising of the sun, before it sets, and during some hours of the night. Glorify him at the two ends of the day as well, so you can have even more spiritual satisfaction. It says, don't let your eyes gaze longingly at those material goods that we gave to some groups among them to enjoy, for it's only the splendor of this world through which we test them. It is better to be poor. It is better to be unpopular. It is better to be ignored, and have taqwa and be on the right path, rather than, you know, just, you know, having popularity or having wealth, having the riches and the goodness of the things of this dunya. If you have to choose, it's better that you always keep your taqwa and your honesty and your morality. Okay. Then in Surah Anbiya, which is Surah 21, it says in verse 4, say to them, my Lord knows everything that's spoken within the heavens and the earth, for he is the hearing and the knowing. No way, they say. It's just a bunch of jumbled dreams. No way, he made that up. No way, he's just a poet. So let him bring a miracle like the ones that were sent down in ancient times. It says the people of those previous settlements that we destroyed did not believe. So, you know, that's basically the typical answer of people who don't believe. If we look, there's a lot of, you know, this surah is full of many things. There's verses just, you know, about believing in Allah. There's proofs of the verses, like, you know, all these examples, like, for example, we placed firmly rooted highlands in the earth so it wouldn't shake with them. So, you know, it's talking about kind of like the higher parts of the land are there to kind of keep the earth firm. It talks about examples like we made the sky as a sheltering canopy. Okay, and he's the one who created the night and the day, the sun and the moon. They go in an orbit. These are just one after one after one examples. It says we didn't grant immortality to any mortal being. So if you died all of a sudden, would they get to live? If you died all of a sudden, Muhammad, would they get to live forever? So every single person is going to die. It doesn't matter, even if they're unbeliever, even if they're the president of the United States, they will have to die. It says every soul will taste death, and we are testing you through both disaster and good fortune. In the end, you will all be brought back to us. So once again, life is a test. Okay, Ibrahim alayhi salam's story comes up, and you know, just all of his dealings with his people. But I want you to know about this story that's in the Kahoot game as well, because he had to deal with his people. He had to deal with his father. They were people of idolatry, right? So they used to worship these man-made, like, you know, idols. I mean, it might seem crazy to us, but I'll bet what the world does now seems crazy to other people, right? So here, what they did is they threw him in the fire. If you look in verse 66 and 67. So, are you worshiping besides Allah? Ibrahim asked. Things that can neither benefit you nor harm you? Shame on you. And the things that you're worshiping besides Allah don't have any sense. You know something, when you're in a society, when you're in a culture, anything can seem right. Anything. I mean, if you look at the society that we live in, there's some really crazy things that people do, and they make it okay. They make it okay, and the more people keep saying it's okay, people believe it's okay, and they go along with it, right? And back then, it might seem crazy to us that they're worshiping idols, but, you know, then it's an example for us that things that happen now, it doesn't mean that those things are right, just because everyone's doing it. So back then, everyone was worshiping idols, but this is what the wrongdoers told him. They said, burn him, they shouted. Protect your gods if you must do something. This is what we said. So they put Ibrahim alayhi salam in the middle of a fire. Allah said that we said, fire, cool down and be a place of safety for Ibrahim. But then the nobles made a plan against him, but we caused them to fail. So this is what Allah did in his power. This is a miracle. Fire, you've never heard of it being cool. It kills, right? It cooks people, it kills, it does all this. But the miracle is, even though they threw him in the fire, Allah's protection was on Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Allah made the fire to cool down. So it wasn't hurting him. says, we saved Ibrahim and Lut, and we directed him towards the land that we blessed for all the nations of the world. We granted Ibrahim a son named Ishaq, a grandson named Yaqub, and an extra gift, and we made each of them righteous. We also made them into leaders to guide their people by our command. We inspired them to do good, to establish prayer, and to give charity, and they always served us. So here, we know a few things here. One thing is, even a situation that normally seems really bad, like being thrown in the fire, Allah can make it good for someone he loves. So you could be in a really terrible situation that might seem terrible, but Allah might turn that situation on the inside for you not that bad, okay? And also that Ibrahim alayhi salam, as we know, prayed so much to Allah. He made so much dua to Allah, and Allah answered many of his prayers in this life, and he gave him like prophets as sons and leaders of the righteous. This is one of the best things, you know, what better thing could you want? Next in the surah, it goes on to talk about the story of Nuh and Dawood and Sulaiman. And one of your Kahoot questions is that you know how the prophets, some of them had these miracles, like Isa could talk to, you know, as a baby. And Dawood, he was able to deal with steel. Okay, he was able to manipulate steel. That is something, even if we know how to do that now, back hundreds and thousands of years ago, they didn't know how to do that. So he was given this gift of being able to mold the steel. So he made coats of armor with the steel. That was a very big, that's a very big miracle. Another example of Yaqub cried out to his Lord saying, misery has come upon me, but you're the most merciful. So there's examples like this. Another example of a prophet crying out to his Lord. When Zechariah called upon his Lord, my Lord, don't leave me childless, although you're the best inheritor. So, you know, the prophets, they even asked for those things that we take for granted. You know, when people have kids, sometimes they just take it as a normal. But look at the prophets. Allah could have made them like rich kings. He could have made them so, you know, like comfortable and luxurious. That's not the definition of a righteous person. That's not the definition of a prophet. This prophet and many prophets had to pray just to have a child. And here Zechariah called, don't leave me childless. And then Allah says in verse 89, we listened to him too and granted him a son, and we cured his wife of infertility. Okay, and the same thing it reminds us about Mary in 91. It says, and Maryam, the one who had maintained her purity, we breathed our spirit into her and made her a sign for all of the worlds, or made her son a sign. Last surah is Surah Hajj. Okay, so a couple of things in Surah Hajj talks about at the beginning, on the day when you see every nursing mother will forget her suckling babe and every pregnant woman will have a miscarriage. Have you ever seen, okay, like when you see somebody who's nursing their baby, it's like nothing else matters. Like when they're taking care of their baby, it doesn't matter if like the fire alarm's going on or something, like it doesn't matter what is going on, like all they care about is their child, right? Well, on the day of judgment, even a nursing mother is gonna forget her child, okay? And even someone with a baby in their tummy, that baby's gonna drop out of their tummy because that is how it's gonna be. It says, you'll see people stumbling as if they were drunk, but they won't be drunk. Allah's punishment will be that intense. So just a visualization for us about how the day of judgment is going to be. It's going to be very different, okay? And I want you to know, and this is a Kahoot question, that when we make the sacrifice during the pilgrimage, right? Because there's one of the Eid after Hajj where you have to make a sacrifice. So when we make that sacrifice, we're obeying Allah. Now, do you think Allah wants the meat? When we sacrifice an animal, why does Allah want that? Does he want all that meat so he can have a big like carnivore party up in Jannah or something? No. It says in verse 36, it's not the meat or the blood that reaches Allah, but rather your mindfulness of your duty to him that reaches him, your taqwa, okay? When we obey Allah, Allah is seeing our taqwa. And even that story, we could get into details, but we don't have enough time. But even that story was originally the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam being willing to sacrifice his dearest possession, his son, only to obey Allah. Okay? So
that example right there of being willing to give up something that is so dear to you. Ibrahim alayhi salam, just like the Zakaria, had to wait and wait and wait to even have his precious son. Finally, when he got it, right, after a lifetime, when he got it, then Allah tests him and says, give it up by sacrificing. And he says, okay, even though it is dear to me, I'll give it up to make Allah happy. So then what? Allah noticed that and he counted that. He said, check mark, you passed, okay? And so here, Allah is saying, he doesn't need the blood and meat of these animals. He just wants to see if we passed that taqwa test, okay? And then a couple of small points, and we go to the Kahoot game. Another thing is that Allah will reward people who sacrifice for him. So if we look at verse 58, it says, those who migrate from their homes as refugees in the cause of Allah, then who are subsequently killed or die, they're going to have a wonderful share of resources granted to them by Allah, for Allah is the best provider of resources. I'll say quickly before 3:30, and then we go to Kahoot. An example would be when I visited Islamic Spain, there was people at the time of Ferdinand and Isabella who were getting killed just for believing in Allah. What did they do? They did this. They migrated from their homes. They were comfortable. They had everything. They were established in their societies. But when they found out that they had a choice between keeping their life the way it is, or having to choose between their faith and their life, they chose their faith. They left everything and they went to the Al-Bukhara mountain pass. Okay, we got to visit that place. They went into this cold area and they gave up everything. And then they went deep into the mountains, which was so high. Like, it's not a joke. Like, you'll be scared if you ever take a car and drive there. They went and lived inside these mountains just so that they could keep their Islam and keep their faith. And those kind of people, it says those who migrate in the cause of Allah and who subsequently are killed or die, they're going to have a wonderful share of the resources granted. So they passed that test, that same test that Allah is checking inside. They passed that test and Allah will count them as martyrs, okay, if they die. And they will have a very big reward in the afterlife. I'm going to end there. We have gotten through Surah Hajj. Inshallah, tomorrow, next time, it'll be Surah Al-Mu'minun, Surah number 23. I want you to pull out your Kahoot, please, very quickly. And I'm so excited because I think y'all are going to do great today. That's what I think. So let me see if I can. Okay, so Bismillah. I'm going to push play, post. We'll try to wrap this up in 5 minutes just because everybody has to go. And the game pin is coming up. It's 80901. Wow, that's the shortest game pin I ever saw. 80901. All right. Now, I hope that I told you every single question and answer, but if I didn't, I will help you out, but I'm pretty sure I did. All right, we got 6 of you on there. I know we got some more. Excellent. Okay, we'll wait for a couple of more and then we're going to get on the game. Y'all did great. We got through 4 long surahs today. I mean, you guys are awesome. MashaAllah. And we're approaching the last 10 days of Ramadan. That is, woo, woo. By the way, for challenge number 3, those that are on the app, oh my goodness, shit. I know some of you completed challenge number 2. I was going to tell you the names. Challenge number 3, I want you to learn a very short dua, okay? It can be short, it doesn't have to be long, just learn a dua and let me know about that. I'm gonna post that inshallah soon and I'll give you all the way till Wednesday night. We're gonna go ahead and start, Bismillah. All right, let's start this game. And it goes like this. Maryam alayhi salam's miracle was what? Was it having Isa with no father, getting rain with no clouds, being unable to speak, or talking to babies? What was Maryam alayhi salam's miracle? Very, very good. Everybody got it right. Having Isa with no father. Next. A miracle of Isa was what? What was a miracle of Isa? Seeing in the dark, talking to animals, speaking as a baby, sending rain back up to the sky. What was a miracle of Isa alayhi salam? I know you know it. Yes, 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 yes. He was able to speak as a baby. Y'all are doing good, mashallah. Next. How did the Fir'aun die? How did the Fir'aun die? He fell from a mountain. He was eaten by a whale. He drowned in the sea or died in an earthquake. How did the Fir'aun die? Y'all are awesome. Drowned in the sea. All right. True or false? Adam and his wife never touched the forbidden tree. Is that true or false? They never touched the forbidden tree. 10 seconds. That is so false. We know it's false. Good. Y'all are doing great. Number 5. Ibrahim alayhi salam died in a fire. Ibrahim alayhi salam died in a fire. Is that true or false? We just talked about this one, and you know that that is false. He didn't die in no fire. He was saved. Okay, y'all are doing great, mashallah. Number 6, Dawood alayhi salam was able to do what? What was Dawood alayhi salam able to do? Move mountains, control steel, upturn the seas, or fly to the moon. Did he move mountains, control steel, upturn the seas, or fly to the moon? He controlled steel. That was his big fat miracle. And our last question, true or false? The meat and blood of our sacrifice reaches Allah. The meat and blood of our sacrifice reaches Allah. Does that meat and blood fly up to the sky and reach Allah? What is the right answer? And the answer is false. The answer is false. Very, very good. What Allah wants is our taqwa, right? Okay, so let's see. Maliha, excellent. Very, very good. Aisha, once again, very, very good. And Asma, awesome. And I know more of you did good. They're going to show a number 4 and 5. Mariam and Fatima, you guys did great too. And it's probably because you got all of them right too. Y'all are awesome, awesome, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I want to show you something really quick. Are you still there? I do want to show you something. Okay, something happened. Wait, feeding controls. Wait, let's stop the share. Maybe, okay, that'll work. I want to show you something really quick before I have to go, if you can stay on. So if you are able to do this, so here, you don't have to. Let me share my screen again. You do not have to do this, but if you would like to do this, you can. And that is a little video. I'm going to share my screen again. Bismillah. So if you can pay attention to the video and you can send me a sentence that says, I love the MCC, because then you might be put in a video that I'm making. Okay. So it goes like this. I'm going to start it over.
I can't hear the video.
Oh, you can't hear the video?
No.
Yikes. Oh my God. Why can't you hear the, oh.
I don't think audio.
Okay, now, are you able to hear the Kahoot games whenever I do Kahoot? Okay, let's see if you can hear it now.
Kind of, but not really.
I can't hear it still.
Okay, so what that is, let me stop the share. Okay, all that is basically, if you can say a sentence that says, I love the MCC because, and you can say anything you want, and just WhatsApp that to me, then I'm making a video where there's different people saying that, and you can pick anything you want, okay? So if you are able to send that to me, that's great. You don't have to, you know, it's totally your choice. If you want your parents or someone else that you know, a brother or somebody, you're welcome to send that to me, inshallah. We're gonna try to put that together because on Friday, we're going to have an online event with Preacher Moss. He's so funny. Does everybody know Preacher Moss? You can tell your parents all they have to do is log into a Zoom meeting like this. So Preacher Moss is looking forward to being there, and also Suhaib Webb at 5:30 to 6:30. So inshallah, we will be, you know, making that video, and I'm either going to play it before that.
It's the Tonight Show.
Or I might play it, you know, during that event. We'll see, inshallah. But yeah, that's it. And about the challenge that I'm going to post today. So I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a lot of different du'as you can do. And as we know, the prophets did a lot of different du'as. I just want you to find any